Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome. Let's begin with a prayer. Gracious God, we thank you for this opportunity to come together to celebrate the great tradition of athletics at St. Thomas Academy. An opportunity to tell stories, an opportunity to remember, an opportunity to renew old friendships. We thank you for the food we will enjoy a bit later, together as a family. Bless those who have prepared and served it. Amen. How thrilling is it to be back on campus for 2016 homecoming? Yeah, great, thank you. Thank you. On behalf of St. Thomas Academy Alumni Association and St. Thomas Academy Headmaster Matt Mose, I welcome you to the 2016 St. Thomas Academy Athletic Hall of Fame. My name is Joe Jansen, class of 1983. I'm the current president of the Alumni Association. And right now I'd like to bring up our headmaster, Matt Mose.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to take a quick moment to welcome you to St. Thomas Academy and to thank you for your support of this evening's event. As I look at the inductees, and I was looking through the program really quickly here, I didn't realize that one of the job responsibilities of the headmaster is to teach students to box. But apparently that was one of the responsibilities back in 1909 when Tom Gibbons was a student here. So tonight's induction ceremony is a pretty special one for me personally, because it is the first one where I've known very well three of the inductees. Not to offer a slight to the other inductees, because obviously the Abbott family, the Flynn family, the Kronschnabel family, and the O'Shaughnessy family are all names that are familiar to the school. But I had the privilege of being a student and a classmate of Echo Bay Stafford, as well as being a student here when both Jack Zahr and Bill Culbertson were on the faculty here. And so for me, it is bittersweet to be able to induct, to be part of the induction ceremony for a couple of these men who are not with us anymore, and as well as a number of inductees who are not able to be here tonight, partly because of time and partly because of illness. But I just wanted to say thank you for being here tonight, and to have a room full of people, to have a room full of my classmates here to celebrate is a pretty special event for someone who gets to lead an institution like this. Our athletic traditions are extremely important, as you would expect in an all-boys school. It's definitely part and parcel of what we do. We see it as a way of helping impart the lessons that this institution was founded for. We weren't founded to be an athletic powerhouse. We were founded to produce men of character, men who would go out into the world to lead by example and to help make the world a better place. We have those examples in our coaching staff across generations, and some of whom are being inducted tonight, as well as reflected in the inductees. They took the lessons that they learned on the athletic fields, on the courts, and they applied it in their lives elsewhere. So I welcome you, and I want you to enjoy tonight. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Joe Jansen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. Some other introductions. Director of Athletics and Activities, Bob Slater. Is Bob in the room? There he is. Bob Slater, welcome back. Assistant Director of Athletics and Activities, Julie Marks. Hi, Julie. Director of Alumni Relations, Luke Marks. Senior Director of Alumni Relations, Mike Maxwell. Thanks, Mike. I would ask any St. Thomas Academy faculty or coaches that are in the room to please stand to be recognized. Any current faculty, coaches? Yes. Thank you. I'd like to specially recognize Jody Whaley, Director of Events here at St. Thomas Academy, and the advancement team for all their efforts towards the success of today's event and the entire week of alumni and homecoming activities. Thank you, Jody. Is Jody here? Jody's around here? Jody? The Alumni Association has a lengthy and thorough process which begins with an individual being nominated for consideration for the Hall of Fame. Nomination forms, instructions, member lists, and biographies are available to you on the St. Thomas Academy Alumni Association website. Our Hall of Fame has a home. You can visit the Hall of Fame in person. It's just outside this arena, Schobert Flynn Arena, in the south hallway, out through the same door you came in, turn right, and relish in our rich athletic tradition. St. Thomas Academy Hall of Fame, established in 2008, is made up of 58 individuals. I'd like to recognize Hall of Fame members who are attending today. I ask you to come forward when your name is announced and assemble on the east side of the room in our Hall of Fame section over here. Jerry Brown, class of 1958, inducted in 2008. Steve Dolan, class of 1951, inducted 2008. Michael Flood, class of 1977, inducted 2013. Terry Flynn, class of 1955, inducted 2008. Bill Miley, class of 1977, inducted 2014. Michael Mullen, class of 1951, inducted 2013. Jim Murray, class of 1959, inducted 2010. Todd Spicer, class of 1997, inducted 2011. David Stevican, class of 1982, inducted 2010. Wayne Thalhuber, class of 1956, inducted 2014. Jerry Thomas, class of 1953, inducted 2013. Mike Wright, class of 1956, inducted 2008. Is there anybody that I may have missed that might have slipped in under the cover of, Rich Allen? Class of 1960s. I'm sorry, Rich. Class of 1960. Inducted 2013. Let's see, Rich Allen. Anybody else? Jim Warner. Jim Warner? Where's Jim? Jim Warner. Class of 1972. Inducted 2013. Anyone else? Roger Anderson. Class of 1972. Inducted 2013. All right, thank you. Please welcome Mr. George Turner, class of 1979, immediate past president of the Alumni Association and co-chair of the 2016 St. Thomas Academy Athletic Hall of Fame.
Hello, everyone. I'll be your master of ceremonies tonight. And our first inductee is Tom Gibbons. Tom Gibbons graduated from STMA in 1909. Representing the Gibbons family today are his grandchildren, Tim Gibbons, Maura Gibbons, Sue Bennett, and Rose Simmons. Please stand and be recognized. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. While at STMA, Tom learned the sport of boxing from Father John Dunphy, the headmaster at the time. His sparring partner was his older brother, Mike. He would hone his craft over the years while growing in size to become a light heavyweight. He packed a stiff punch, but was deft at avoiding one. He was a boxer and not a brawler. He fought 106 times over a 12-year career, which is a staggering frequency compared to today's fighters who train for months for just one fight. He achieved 48 wins by knockout while suffering only 4 defeats. His career as a pugilist culminated in a fight for the heavyweight championship of the world against Jack Dempsey on the 4th of July, 1923 in Shelby, Montana. He went the distance of 15 rounds, but lost on a decision. This is the same fight and title defended by other boxing greats, such as Joe Frazier, George Foreman, and Muhammad Ali. What elite company, and what an accomplishment. He was one of the greatest fighters ever in the history of the sport, and he started at our school. Tom was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 1993. It's important to understand that in the 1920s, America had 2 sporting passions, baseball and boxing. There was no NFL or NBA. As a prominent boxer of his time, Tommy Gibbons enjoyed fame on par with the biggest names of the day, including Babe Ruth and Charlie Chaplin. After boxing, he became the Ramsey County Sheriff for 24 years and raised a large family of 10 children in St. Paul. He passed away in 1960 at the age of 60. Please give a warm St. Thomas Academy welcome to his grandson, Tim Gibbons, who will accept on his behalf.
Thank you very much. Very nice introduction, and I think he pretty much covered it, so thank you very much. Kidding. So as he mentioned, our grandfather had 10 kids. There were 7 boys and 3 girls. Unfortunately, all of them have passed except our Aunt Mary, who went to visitation, by the way, and now lives in Colorado. But since our father's generation is gone, that leaves me. And then there were 45 grandchildren. So I realized there's 8 inductees, so how much time? 3-4 minutes, I heard? I guess I've used it all up again. Thank you. Anyway, so our grandfather was born in St. Paul in 1891. He was actually the second to the youngest in a family of 9. He was also a son of Irish immigrants. According to the 1900 census, our family had recorded that our family had come from Ireland in 1884. As a matter of fact, we still have relatives in Ireland and friends with them on Facebook and whatnot. Thank God to today's technology. So anyway, of the 3 youngest that were born here, all their older siblings were born in Ireland. And Mike Gibbons, who was also the boxer and a great influence on my grandfather, was actually the first member of the family to be born here in the U.S. in St. Paul. My grandfather spoke very highly of Father Dunphy. In a 1943 magazine article, he specifically talked about his time at St. Thomas Academy. And he is quoted as saying, one man that really encouraged me a great deal in those early days was Reverend John Dunphy, who was Dean of St. Thomas Academy then. Father Dunphy might have become a great ring man if he chose, but he selected a greater field. My grandfather was a great man of faith, and so considered being a member of the clergy. He loved boys and he loved boxing. When he had to punish a youngster, he did it by putting the gloves on with him. I don't remember if he ever boxed me for punishment, but we often engaged in sparring matches for exercise. He encouraged me to keep it up and to train and live right. And as was mentioned, our grandfather had 106 fights. We were just listening to a radio interview on the way over where Grandpa has said that his fights averaged 3 1/4 rounds each. So, as mentioned too, the 4 people that he lost to were Jack Dempsey, Gene Tunney, Greb, and Miskey. We have a newspaper article where Jack Dempsey talked about the top 10 people that he ever boxed, or his top 10 best boxers that he fought. And he listed Gene Tunney as obviously as number 1 since he beat him for the heavyweight championship. But he listed our grandfather as number 2. And what Jack Dempsey had to say about our grandfather, he said, Tom Gibbons had a powerful left hook. Gibbons was the hardest to fight. He was smart, fast, good on the inside stuff, making you miss and tying you up. That's what some of the things that Jack Dempsey had to say. And then it's, it was a different era, and actually after the fight and their whole lives, our grandfather and Jack Dempsey were actually good friends. And our Uncle Pete actually went to Cretin and was the class of 1949. And Uncle Pete talked about one time when Grandpa Tom and Jack Dempsey just happened to stop into Cretin, and Uncle Pete said he got called to the principal's office to meet Jack Dempsey. So then, after he retired from boxing, he sold insurance for a time, and then in 1934 he was elected sheriff of Ramsey County, which was right after Dillinger was here and the gangsters were big in St. Paul. And that was a story I heard from our dad, that was one of the reasons that he was elected sheriff, is they thought that if he could go toe-to-toe with Jack Dempsey, he could handle the gangsters like John Dillinger and the rest of them. So even though he was elected slightly after John Dillinger was in St. Paul, somebody wrote a book about the gangsters in St. Paul called Dillinger Slept Here, and our grandfather is quoted a number of times in it. During his reign as sheriff is when they cleaned out the gangsters out of St. Paul. And I read in an article where where our grandfather had said that, people like to credit him for clearing out the gangsters from St. Paul, and he said, I don't have that big of a head. It wasn't me, it was the FBI. And so he worked fairly closely with the FBI, and we have different letters over the years from the FBI to grandfather. And then, so he was sheriff of Ramsey County until he retired in 1959, was also King Boreas of the Winter Carnival in 1946. He was a great man of faith, and so he did a lot of work with the church. As a matter of fact, as it says in the program, he donated the money from fighting Gene Tunney and built the Catholic Church in Osakis, for which he was knighted by the Pope. A couple of his other accomplishments were in the Minnesota Centennial in 1958, he was named one of the 100 most noted citizens of Minnesota. So he accomplished a great deal in his life, but of all he accomplished, I think the one thing that I am most proud of him, and I think the most highly of, is he was a man of integrity, honesty and character, and obviously in the day we live in now, it seems like we're a little short on that. One of grandfather's quotes, he said, the number one purpose in a person's life is to save your soul. I guess that goes along with the biblical quote that says, what purpose is it to gain the world and then lose your soul? He had a great love for youth and youth activities. When he was sheriff, he thought the best way to combat juvenile delinquency was through youth activities. And he also worked with the Boy Scouts and different organizations. Several things, even though I was only 2 when he died, but some of my older siblings, like my sister Maura, who's here, was in Sports Illustrated with him, with some of my other siblings right before I was born. I missed the Sports Illustrated cutoff, but I was interviewed by the BBC and a couple other organizations like WCCO. So anyway, I was always heard that he was the kind of person that was extremely well liked and had a lot of charisma, and he was much loved by his children and grandchildren. Grandfather was also a great believer in athletics. Some of his quotes were that he thought that through athletics you not only built the body but consequently built the mind, and he felt that athletics was a great character builder and not only built the body but built the mind. But anyway, I guess that's enough. Let some of the other people speak. Thank you all for coming, and obviously the great privilege and honor.
Our next inductee is Dan Flynn, who graduated from STMA in 1957. Unfortunately, Dan passed away just last March, but here today to support his legacy are his wife Geraldine and sons Mike and Terry. Please stand and be recognized. Dan is brother to Terry Flynn, who is previously inducted into this athletic Hall of Fame and who is the patriarch to the Flynn clan, who have been such a big part of this school. Dan was an intense multi-sport athlete, excelling in football, basketball, and baseball, achieving all conference honors in each as a junior, a tremendous accomplishment. His senior football season was marred by injury, but he returned in time for basketball and baseball, where he captained both teams and earned all-conference once again. Skip Mcmahon had the greatest influence on him during his days as an athlete at STA. In college, he was a distinguished pitcher on the College of St. Thomas baseball team. He was a starting pitcher all 4 years, and his team finished either in first or second place each year. His most notable accomplishment during that time was an outing against Dick Siebert's squad from the mighty U of Minnesota, where he held them to only 2 runs through 7 innings. Professional baseball was an option for Dan, but he chose instead to join the Marines, where he would rise to the rank of captain. Later, he entered the business world, enjoying a successful career in sales that had his family relocating periodically, but settling in St. Louis, Missouri. Please give a warm St. Thomas Academy welcome to his son, Terry Flynn, who will accept on his behalf.
Well, first of all, thank you all very much, and congratulations to all the inductees. You mentioned the Flynn clan. They're all over here and spread throughout the crowd, and all telling me don't go up there and pass out, giving me all kinds of support over there. So there's paybacks coming, trust me. Trust me. First and foremost, thank you to St. Thomas Academy. It's as you just said, been such a big part of the Flynn family. I do want to recognize again the St. Louis Flynns that are here. My mom, Jerry Flynn, married to my dad for 54 years. I think anybody married to a Flynn for 54 years has a Hall of Fame spot somewhere in this academy or somewhere. There's several people I do want to recognize, and I'm sorry, my brother Mike is here. He is here. My brother Mike is here. I lost a coin flip to him on the way up here, so that's why I'm standing up here tonight. And we do have a younger brother who wants to be here but had a conflict. There are several people that I'm going to recognize tonight. I will do that here in a second. But I do want to recognize the Minnesota Flynns first and foremost. We are this big, as you said, this big Irish clan. We are have been close all our lives, and we moved away in the early 1970s. And so out of all the generations, and I'll have to confirm this with my Uncle Terry, I think the Flynns have been part of this institution for probably 60 some years. Unc, you gotta let me know. But the St. Louis Flynns left in the early 70s from Minnesota, And I remember my cousin Vince, obviously the Vince, used to whisper in my ear at a very impressionable age. He used to say, you know, it's going to be harder for you to get into heaven because you're not St. Thomas. And I have spent the last 40 years checking the scriptures. I have not found that verse. And I know there is a priest in here somewhere I'm going to confer with, because I'm not sure he was accurate on that. But you know, two people informed us that my dad had been nominated and inducted into the Hall of Fame, which was such an honor. It's my cousin Dan Flynn and my uncle Terry. And Dan, thank you so much. You did such a big job with this, and it's such an honor. Dan said, as he was advising me on this, he said, be gracious, be thankful, and be brief. And he said, Terry, piece of cake, 5 minutes. And then he sent me a bunch of videos, and every one of the videos, every one of those inductees mentioned my uncle on what a legendary figure he was as a coach and a mentor. And all of a sudden, that piece of cake statement took a little more gravity to it. There's some big shoes to fill. And then as I walked onto your beautiful campus and saw Vincent J. Flynn, I said, two things really came to my mind. I said, one, I'm how proud I am to be a Flynn. And then two, I was like, how the hell did I lose that coin flip? Get up here. But I'm so proud of this institution, so proud of the Flynn family, so proud of my dad. Let me flip a couple notes here, because there are people I want to thank. I know this is tough to get into the Hall of Fame here at St. Thomas, obviously, so I want to identify these people that really pushed this forward. Pat O'Neill, Dick Hanasack, John O'Shaughnessy, Tom Emmer, Tom Mertz. And I know I'm forgetting some people, and if I did, I apologize for that. But thank you very much. And of course, my cousin Dan and my uncle Terry Flynn. I did laugh when I read these names: O'Neill, Hanasack, O'Shaughnessy, Flynn. There had to be some type of tuition discount back then for the Irish. Or my grandmother Mert just told my dad, you hang out with the Irish and that's it. But thank you very much, gentlemen. It's a great honor for my family. This name was mentioned, and I was told that it's a name that sits by itself, and that's Skip Mcmahon. He was my dad's coach. He was my dad's mentor. I wish I could have met this gentleman. He seems like somebody, a Mount Rushmore type of individual, but I did do a little research on him. 12 swimming state titles, 8 basketball, 4 golf, 3 football, 2 tennis, 2 hockey, 1 track. If there were more, blame Google, but I'd say that's pretty impressive. And beyond that, what a great mentor he was to thousands of kids. So just in closing, I would say this, St. Thomas has a lot of pillars that go well beyond athletics. And I think my dad, as great as he was as an athlete, outdid all that as husband, father, grandfather, Catholic. So thank you all very much. It's such an honor for the Flynn family, and I appreciate your time. Thanks, St. Thomas.
Our next inductee is Jim Kronschnabel. Jim graduated from St. Thomas Academy in 1972. He grew up as part of a large family in St. Paul on Summit Avenue, many of whom are here today in support. Will Jim and his family please stand and be recognized? Jim was also a multi-sport athlete, excelling in football, tennis, and hockey. He was probably least known as a football player, but was still worthy of being selected all-conference in 1971. Jim's summers were spent on the tennis court at Town and Country Club, where he groomed his game while also playing in many youth tournaments. This culminated in his winning an individual Minnesota State Tennis Championship not once, but 2 years in a row. This remains STA's only individual tennis title to this day. His winters were spent on the ice where he was a productive forward, serving as team captain his senior year and earning all conference honors both his junior and senior year. Jim followed his graduation from STA with a year playing junior hockey. He then moved up to play Division I hockey in the Western Collegiate Hockey Association for Colorado College. In the next 3 years, he enjoyed success there, scoring 85 total points for the CC Tigers. Jim has had a varied and successful career in business. Currently, he resides in Winona, Minnesota, where he is involved in the hospitality industry. Please give a warm St. Thomas Academy welcome to our next recipient, Jim Kronschnabel.
I really wanted to go to Cretin. I'm dead serious. I wanted to go to Cretin. I followed my brother Bill, who I looked up to for years and still do. He was 4 years ahead of me, so I would go to all the Cretin football games, Cretin hockey games, Cretin baseball games, and I had purple in my blood. And then my father informed me one day that he and Bob Kleiman and Tom Botel and Joe O'Neill and Picey McGuire all got together and decided we're all going to St. Thomas Academy. I wasn't too thrilled about that. But I do remember the day I was sitting in the office with my dad and Bill Ridley, who was a headmaster at the time. And my dad had brought me back to school. And I think my dad left, or Bill asked him to leave the room, and Bill looked at me and he said, "Jim, we can do it your way, or we can do it my way. But you're not going anywhere." So from that day forward, I kind of got what the package was. For those of you that are tight with St. Thomas, the package is what you buy into, and you buy the whole thing, like it or not. And it turned out to be the greatest thing that ever happened to me. I had a great time here, met a ton of wonderful people. I don't know if I can say much about guys like Jerry Brown, Terry Flynn, Leo Collins, Bill Culbertson, fellow inductee. Congratulations, Bill. These guys had a huge influence on my life. When Jerry Brown convinced me to go out and play football as a senior, I broke my arm in summer hockey between sophomore and junior year pretty severely, so I couldn't play football my junior year. And I just figured that was it. It was over. I was 137 pounds, soaking wet. And Jerry pulled me aside and said, "You're going to play." I said, "Jerry, I don't want to play." He said, "You're going to play." I did, and I had the time of my life. We had a great team. I was extremely fortunate in my years at St. Thomas to play with some phenomenal athletes. And we won the All-Conference trophy, or excuse me, what was that trophy they called it? The All-Schools trophy or whatever, the whole Central Catholic Conference, the teams, the school that won the most titles. I think St. Thomas won it all 4 years I was here. And that was against some powerhouses like Cretin and Hill Murray and Benelb and De La Salle back in those days. So there was tremendous athletes at St. Thomas Academy that I was very fortunate to play with. And also the influence of these gentlemen, many of them sitting over in that corner, on all of us was incredible. Thank you very much. With that said, this is a huge honor. I am quite honestly, I didn't think it was that big a deal. And then I got here tonight and I saw all the other inductees and the crowd, and it's very, very nice. Thank you. But even more of an honor is the fact that my children came from all over the country to be here. My brothers and sisters, almost all of them are here, 7 of the 10. My lovely lady of my life is here. And that means more to me than anything. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Our next inductee is Steve Abbott. Steve Abbott graduated from St. Thomas Academy in 1976. He also grew up part of a large family on Summit Avenue in St. Paul. Today here to support Steve is his wife Linda and 3 sons Michael, Danny, and Tommy. Please stand to be recognized. Steve was involved in STA athletics as a student manager, and it was in this role that he made an invaluable and important contribution to the most notable football team in the school's history, the 1975 state championship team. Student managers are a common thing today, and many teams have multiple student managers, but the position was more formative back then. Steve Abbott was a pioneer and is regarded by his classmates as the gold standard of what a student manager should be. While certainly he helped with equipment and the like, he also was unfailingly positive and supportive of his teammates. A successful team results when everyone embraces their role and when everyone has mutual respect of each other. The 1975 football cadets had that in spades. Steve Abbott was an equal teammate and the straw that stirred the drink. I can speak from some perspective as I was a freshman and observer then, and I can very well recall his enthusiasm for his teammates. The selection process for induction to this athletic Hall of Fame is arduous and includes lengthy discussions by a selection committee. During a committee meeting, one member, who also happens to be a current STA coach, made only one comment regarding Steve, and it was profound. That's the type of guy I can build a whole team around. With that in mind, please give a warm St. Thomas Academy welcome to Steve Abbott.
Got to get my helmet on. Thank you. Thank you very much for this honor. I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame Committee, and I want to thank Bill Miley and Dan Flynn, who originally nominated me and got the ball rolling for this incredible recognition. I want to thank Coach Jerry Brown for asking me to be one of his managers. Not that I had a choice, if you know what I mean. And I do want to recognize my fellow recipients today for their incredible accomplishments. It's an honor to be in your company. You know, my father, Mike Abbott, a proud STA alumnus, passed away earlier this year. When he was in hospice, I had the pleasure of telling him that I had been nominated for this honor. This was very special for me because it made him happy, and I can't imagine the joy he has seeing me here today. My athletic story is a bit unique, as some of you may know. I came to the academy in 1972 and was about 75, 80 pounds soaking wet. Not the physical specimen one might think for an athletic Hall of Famer. And much like my parents, my siblings, and my friends, the STA family welcomed me with open arms, always treating me equally. I'd like to acknowledge Terry Hurley and the late Dan Flood. Now, I know that's scary to some people, but these are two people who are really helped me break ground by anointing me with the nickname Minutski. An affectionate nod I still carry with me today in some circles. I recall Professor Gatto cautioning my parents at conferences that I wasn't supposed to eat between classes. My locker was 1152, Kevin Kelly's was 1153, right down from Professor Gatto's classroom. I wasn't concerned about getting caught by Professor Gatto, but more worried about being caught by Kevin, since the sandwiches I was sneaking between classes were his. Oh, I have a few highlights. I caught the ball just before halftime. No, that wasn't me. That was number 89, Kevin Berg. I clotheslined that guy, and he went down like he hit the wall. No, that wasn't me. That was number 71, Tim Mcgraw. How about I started the game, scored on the first play 4 games in a row, drive 0 counter. No, that wasn't me. That was number 42, Jim Bolin, and number 21, Terry Garrity. But really, I was lucky enough to be the manager for the football and basketball team. That brought me lifelong friendships, lessons of integrity, teamwork, and loyalty. And I like to think that even though I was a manager and didn't play, over time I was able to play through my sons, Michael, Danny, and Tommy, all Academy graduates. Memories of the coaches stick with me. I vividly recall Coach Jerry Brown watching films and pounding out the weekly plan and how the squad was going to beat our opponent. I can literally hear the distinctive voice of the late Coach Mike Rongage barking to the linemen, "Ready, set, now go." One specific practice week sticks out. I recall Coach Paul Maloney telling his secondary the endless cadence, "Don't get beat deep, don't get beat deep." When it came time to load the bus for the away game, Trip Hook, who was part of the secondary, sat in the very last seat on the bus. He just didn't want to get beat deep sitting in the bus either. Last week, I received a call from David Hottinger here at St. Thomas. He said he had a unique situation. An anonymous donor would like to gift $5,000 in my name in honor of being inducted. Unbelievable. I'd just like to say a heartfelt thank you to the anonymous donor, but that doesn't say enough. I'm humbled and honored to be inducted into the St. Thomas Academy Hall of Fame. Once again, my sincere thanks to my classmates for nominating me, to the Hall of Fame committee for their selection, and thank you to my brothers and sisters who have always supported me, along with my wife Linda, and my sons Michael, his wife Erin, Danny and his girlfriend Christine, and Tommy. Thank you very much.
Our next inductee is Aiko Bay Stafford. Aiko grew up in Shoreview, Minnesota, and graduated from St. Thomas Academy in 1990. Representing Aiko today are his parents Pompey and Florence, his wife Tamara, their 2 daughters Kaya and Jaden, and extended family. Please all stand to be recognized. Thank you. As a multi-sport athlete at STA, he excelled in football, basketball, and track. In basketball, he played forward and served as captain his senior year. In track and field, he won 3 letters, participated on 2 state championship teams, and again served as captain his senior year. In football, he was a fierce defensive player, receiving both All-Metro and All-State honors his senior year. As a reward for his football prowess, Akel received a 4-year scholarship to play Division I football at the University of Maine. At Maine, he was a leading tackler and made all-conference status as a linebacker. After graduating from Maine, he was invited to try out with several professional football teams. He served as a paratrooper with the U.S. Army 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg, making more than 50 parachute jumps. Regrettably, Akel passed away in 2010. He is sorely missed by his family and his classmates and all those who knew him. Dave Zebarth was his football coach here at STA. He recalls that Akel always had a huge smile on his face, was positive, energetic, and fun to be around. He was an optimistic force on the team and at school. The St. Thomas Academy community is honored to remember Akel today for the athlete and the man that he was. Please give a warm St. Thomas Academy welcome to Akel's dad, Pompey, who will accept on his behalf.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Oh, thought I was here by myself. It is such a pleasure and honor to be here tonight to accept this award on behalf of our son, Akel Bey. And we would also like to congratulate the inductees this year in 2016. I was sitting at my desk when I received a call from Bill Culbertson, who, in a nonchalant voice, said, "I have some news for you." And he said, "Oh, Akel has been chosen to be inducted into the Hall of Fame this year." I began to bawl like a baby with tears of joy. I apologized to Bill. And at that moment, I realized Bill was bawling too. Right, Bill? He said, "It's a perfect storm." He says, "Akel and I are being inducted in this year together." Then we both shed more tears of joy. Akel was privileged and fortunate to experience at St. Thomas an environment that allowed him to flourish, not only academically and socially, especially in athletics. He developed many enriching friendships at St. Thomas that has lasted for years and even today. The class of 1990 was and is a very special class. We have Ryan Murray and Mark Montgomery from this class that's in the Hall of Fame. Of course, your headmaster, Matt Mose, is also from this class. Through Matt Dudley, Ryan Murray, and others of Akel's classmates, a $50,000 Akel-based Stafford 90 Memorial Scholarship Endowment has been created. And the purpose of this is to help kids of color attend St. Thomas Academy. Through the leadership of Matt Dudley, Peter Kearns, and Rick Drea, the class also will plant an oak tree on campus in honor of ACO. We thank all of you from the bottom of our hearts. We would like to thank and acknowledge the wonderful coaches that recognize and develop ACO's athletic abilities. They was his mentor as in athletics as well as in life. We have Bill Culbertson and Jack Zahr. They were in track. Bill recruited ACO by walking up and telling him that he was on the track team and he needed to follow him right away for practice. End of story. And everyone knows Bill Culbertson. Tom Arnott, basketball, contacted me when ACO was a freshman saying that he would like ACO to come out for basketball. I told him that ACO didn't play the sport and didn't like it. Tom told me not to worry, and he would be able to teach him and develop him. And he did, and he did a great job. Dave Z brought football. He was instrumental in developing ACO athletic skills to the point that he played college football on a scholarship. Dave even drove ACO all the way home to Shoreview after practice on several occasions. Long drive. Thank you, Dave. I can't see you out there, but we really appreciate it. Joe Seidel was ACO's spiritual leader. Joe encouraged ACO to mentor a young boy that was needing guidance. According to Joe, ACO was able to make a difference in this boy's life. And even after ACO had left to go to school, they still remained friends and in contact with one another. This also influenced ACO to become the caring and supportive man he was. St. Thomas also gave ACO an excellent academic education. The English literature teachers were instrumental in bringing out his creativity as a poet. All his life, he enjoyed writing poetry to express his thoughts and feelings. Here's a poem that he wrote in 1992 that I especially cherish. The title of this poem is Let It Be Known. Let it be known that I have taken the task, that I have run, jumped, played in the grass. Let it be known that I have laughed, danced, woke up to see the morning dew. Let it be known that I have loved and been loved, and it is this I have fond memories of. Let it be known I have shed tears too. Let it be known that I have won and I have lost, but I have also continued to strive, whatever the cost. Let it be known that I have lived to the fullest, wanting to know, taking along the way what is purest. Little did ACO know much this poem would reflect his future adult life. He married his soulmate, Tamara, and deeply loved his two beautiful daughters, Kaya and Jaden, who are here tonight. His greatest joy was being their dad. He loved his family and friends and was always there to help them with a project or to listen and advise when someone was in need. They remember him for his gentleness and kindness with them. He was my friend too. We used to spend hours on the phone reflecting on life and sharing our thoughts. His students at college felt his genuine concern for them. Some told me that he made a lasting difference in their lives. He cared for them was genuine, and they could really feel that. This evening is a gift to ACO's memory. We are humbled to have ACO remembered with the planting of an oak tree on campus and the establishment of a memorial scholarship. We are elated and honored for ACO to be inducted into the Athletic Hall of Fame, and so grateful to St. Thomas Academy for honoring the legacy of our dear son, ACO Bay. Thank you very much.
Our next inductee is Bill Culbertson. Today he is joined by his children, Mary, John, and Ann. Please stand to be recognized. Culbertson kids. Bill's wife, Mary Jo, is convalescing from a broken leg and unable to attend. Bill Culbertson began his career on the St. Thomas Academy faculty in 1968. 40 years later, he retired as one of the true legends in the entire 131-year history of the school. His induction today into the Athletic Hall of Fame is as a coach. His coaching career includes 7 years as head wrestling coach and 30 years as head track and field coach. Bill knew his students well from his role as teacher and dean of students, and thus was able to demand from them their very best. As a wrestling coach, he helped many individuals to accomplish conference and regional championships, as well as 2 who became individual Minnesota state champions. Track and field is a sport that he realized the most impressive results: 24 region, section, or conference team championships, 7 individual Minnesota state championship, 3 team Minnesota, 3 Minnesota state championships as a team. Culbertson's STA mile relays in the mid to late 70s were often legendary, setting several records. The 1977 mile relay team never lost a race, including its finals heat at the Minnesota Outdoor State Meet. Culbertson teams also had record-setting distance runners and athletes who competed in the field events. A trademark of his track teams were their depth. He has also contributed to the STA athletic department as an announcer for basketball and still to this day for football and hockey. Bill's contributions to STA over the last 40-plus years is simply immense. And these few words cannot do justice to the impact that he has had on so many and to our school. Please give a warm St. Thomas Academy welcome to Bill Culbertson.
Thank you, George. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, we got the afternoon, late afternoon. First of all, let me say congratulations to the other inductees. Everybody over here who has been inducted in the last several years are good friends of mine, and to the people being inducted this evening as well, congratulations. I am honored, flattered, and humbled to be inducted into the St. Thomas Academy Athletic Hall of Fame. Allow me to introduce my family, if I may. My daughter Mary and her husband R.C., my son John, my daughter Ann and her husband Darren, and their children Zach, Lauren, and Kate. Thanks for being here. On Labor Day morning, my wife Mary Jo fell and went boom. Fractured her femur, and unfortunately she's not able to be here this evening, but she sends her regards. Also want to introduce my best friend, another former faculty member at St. Thomas Academy, a longtime faculty member, Frank Blankley, who's my guest here this evening. Frank? These remarks are going to be relatively short for me. Those of you that know me are surprised by that, I'm sure, right away, but it's okay. Several years of wrestling, coaching, 30 years of track coaching, thousands, maybe that's an exaggeration, certainly hundreds of cadets I had the good fortune to work with. A number of them are in the room this afternoon, and I appreciate you guys being here. I very much appreciate it. Retired from track in 2002. I was going to retire in 2001, and then I took a look at the roster of the juniors and sophomores who were coming back the next year, and I said, you know, I'm going to do one more year. Because there was a bunch of really good athletes in those classes as well. I could probably stand up here for hours and talk about the individuals who participated in wrestling and track, but I'm certainly not going to do that because I would inevitably forget somebody and it would bore you out of your mind. So suffice it to say, the cadets that were on my wrestling team, our wrestling team and our track team in those years, always conducted themselves with class and good sportsmanship. We had a few rules. When we set up a camp in track, the rule was that no matter what the facility looked like when we got there, it would look better than that when we left. And I would make sure that that would happen because, again, that was part of being a classy program. I prided myself on being able to recruit the building. As Pompey mentioned earlier, I would walk up to individuals and say, what are you doing this spring? And if the answer was nothing, I'd say, well, we'd love to have you out for track. If you don't like it after a couple of weeks, then go do something else. But a lot of them came out, and a lot of them were very successful because they were good athletes and they were good people. They were good people, which is more important than being good athletes. We had some very good teams over those years. As George mentioned, we won some state championships, we won some regional championships, some section championships, some conference championships, etc. But more important than that, these were, as I said, they were just good people. What's remembered, I'm sure the individuals remember the races and the championships. What's remembered are the good times, the effort that the young men on the teams put forth to be successful. They weren't always successful. Sometimes they got beat, and that's the way of the world. Long time ago, I told some freshmen back in the 70s, somebody said, well, that's not fair. And I said, well, you know what? Life's not fair. Life is just not fair, whether you like it or not. And the sooner you learn that, the easier life becomes. So if you learn life's not fair when you're a freshman, if something bad happens to you when you're a senior, you say, well, okay, life's not fair. So a lot of our teams were successful. Some were not quite so successful. But again, what I remember, and I hope the guys that were on those teams remember, are the good times, okay? The laughs we had, because there were plenty of them. There might have been a few tears along the way, probably were, inevitably, but the laughs we had and the camaraderie that was built by those teams and the coaching staffs. That's what I remember from those teams. Special thanks to people who were my coaching colleagues, if I may. In wrestling, let me tell you a quick story, if I may. Sorry to bore you, but when Bill Ridley hired me in the summer, late summer of 1968, I had been at St. Bernard's High School, which is no longer there, and I had brought my teams out to run against Jerry Brown's track team. And in the summer of '68, I had left St. Bernard's without a job, without a teaching job, and I was going to do something else. Jerry called me and said to Tom Scott, some of you old-timers might remember Tom Scott, he was a social studies teacher, and he had just retired that summer, and Jerry said, there's an opening in social studies, and if you come out to St. Thomas, if you get hired, you can be my track assistant for 1 year because I'm going to get the football job because Bill Ridley stepped me down the following year, and I thought, okay, I'm going to try this. So I went to Bill Ridley's house up on Jefferson Avenue, and we sat in his front porch, and we talked about my 4-year career at St. Bernard's right out of college. And he said, well, we'd like to hire you to teach social studies in Spanish and help Jerry in track, and I'd like to have you be the wrestling coach. And I said, well, I don't know anything about wrestling. And Bill looked at me and he says, well, neither does the guy that's doing it now. I told that story at my retirement dinner 8 years ago. It's a true story. A guy who shall remain nameless, because he left shortly after that and went over to Sibley to do something else. And he said, well, that's okay. He said, well, I said, hire me somebody that knows something about wrestling. I can motivate young men, and I can order buses, and I can do all that sort of thing. So we hired a guy named Phil Hutch. Some of you might know Phil Hutch. He's an old academy grad, and he was a wrestler. So he came, and we worked together for a year, and then he left. And then Bruce Jansen, who some of you remember fondly, was my assistant for a few years. Okay, so I want to recognize them. And then in track, a guy named Dennis Pitcairn, who taught chemistry and physics for several years, was the distance coach. And then Tom Weber, and Tom Klein, and Eric Foch, and Billy Owens, and Pat O'Keefe, and Doug Culbertson were my colleagues. They were referred to as assistant coaches, but I really felt that they were my colleagues those years. And the guy I want to mention mostly, I guess, is Jack Zahr, who I worked with for a long time. He was the distance coach for a long time, and I worked with the sprinters and the hurdlers, and we always had a weight coach. For a while, Tom Weber did all 6 field events. I can't even imagine that now. He did the shot put and discus and high jump and pole vault and long jump and triple jump. Amazing. I had no idea how he did it. He had mastered the art of bilocation, I think. He was up here and then he was over here. And we were pretty successful with that, with the group, with Jack and Tom and me. And then I stepped away in 2002 and Tom Klein took over and Billy Owens was the head coach for a while and now Doug Culbertson is the head coach. So there's been a progression of head coaches since I retired. So a special thanks to those guys and a special thanks to our friend Jack Zahr. I have been proud to be a coach at St. Thomas Academy all these years. I still run into people who participate in either wrestling or track, and I hope that they had a good experience. I believe they did. Otherwise, some of them wouldn't be here today, I'm guessing. And I'm also honored and feel very privileged to join the group over here, and those that are here tonight, to be an inductee in the St. Thomas Academy Athletic Hall of Fame. So thank you very much.
Our next inductee is Jack Zahr. Jack Zahr supported St. Thomas Academy athletics from the vantage point of coach and athletic director for nearly 36 years. Representing Jack today are his wife Jan and daughters Laura and Becky. Please stand to be recognized. Jack arrived in 1977 as a successful runner in his own right from Minneapolis Southwest High School and the College of St. Thomas. When he started, high school athletics were basically about the prominent team sports like football, basketball, and baseball, but that all changed during his tenure. Many other sports would be added over the years, as well as activities, and he guided STA to the heights it is at today. His impact on STA athletics and activities cannot be understated. Athletic director for 26 years, managing 14 different athletic programs. Head coach, cross country for 20 years. Assistant coach, track team for 34 years, and for the cross country team for 16 years. Facility improvements of new ice arena, new football stadium, new baseball field, resurfacing of the track twice, and the fabulous new Flynn Activity Center. Introduced new sports of alpine skiing, cross-country skiing, lacrosse, and ultimate frisbee. As athletic director, he was a part of 36 STA state championships. Jack is remembered as a graceful and patient man with a kind, gentle, and humble manner, who wanted to win, but more so wanted athletics to help the cadets to grow as young men. Sadly, Jack passed away suddenly in September of 2013. He is deeply missed by his family and his many colleagues who remain here at STA. Please give a warm St. Thomas Academy welcome to his wife, Jan. who will accept on his behalf.
Sorry about this. There. Well, thank you for that nice introduction, but you just gave half of my speech, so. I'd like to thank the St. Thomas Academy Hall of Fame Selection Committee for this great honor for my husband, Jack. I understand that there were a lot of people involved in his nomination. Dave Zebarth, Bill Miley, Bill Culbertson, Julie Marks, Jerry Brown, and Joe Rasher. And I know there were a lot of other people involved as well, although I don't know who they all were, but I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I was asked to find a few people to write their own thoughts about Jack for a video that's going to be seen later this evening, I believe. So for that, I thank Dave Zebarth, Julie Marks, Tom Malchow, John Hendrickson, and Ben Rasher, who contribute to that. Jack began his teaching career here at St. Thomas Academy in 1977, and he was immediately involved in the athletic department in one way or another. From equipment manager in 1977 to director of athletics and activities in 1988, to which he remained until 2013. Many people are surprised to find out that Jack is not a St. Thomas Academy graduate, because he walked and breathed and he lived St. Thomas Academy. He loved this school. Because I was good until you started talking, sir. But he did love this school, and he wore his passion for the academy, or I'm going to restate that. His passion for the academy was colossal, and he definitely wore this passion on his sleeve. He was very proud of his connection to it, and he defended its reputation when needed. He was hurt when other communities or individuals talked negatively about St. Thomas or about their programs. Jack held all students to high standards on and off the field and in and out of the stands. He expected athletes and fans to show good sportsmanship and respect of opponents, even though that was hard to control at times. He was known to reprimand a student spectator or two who may not have been showing those qualities at some events, but then he would come home and laugh as he told us all their cheers and chants. He also had high standards for himself. He was diligent to the point of obsession when it came to eligibility requirements. He did or would not ever bend the rules or look for loopholes to allow someone to participate when it came to transfer students, keeping up grades, or other high school league policies. I bet you can ask Julie Marks about that. Jack had many successes as a coach. He coached cross country for 20 years and track and field for 35 years. Along the way, he coached swimming, soccer, and hockey. He brought his teams to many conference championships and state appearances, and in 2013 he was named Regional Athletic Director of the Year. He was very proud of the campus here and the facilities. He cared about appearances. He cared about them a lot. As athletic director, he helped to initiate and plan for the Jerry Brown Stadium, the St. Thomas Academy Ice Arena, artificial turf on the football field, resurfacing of the track, a new baseball field, and this dream right here where we're sitting, this beautiful addition to the campus, the Vince Flynn Activity Center. He enforced many rules, including some for the equipment and facilities. Some students may remember his strict rule of no colored beverages on the track or field, as he wanted nothing to stain or mar the track or the field in any way, shape, or form. He was very proud of it. I remember him telling a story of a runner who was feeling very ill after a tough track practice, but he was afraid to throw up on the new track because Mr. Zahr would get mad at him and then probably make him run some more. Under Jack's leadership as athletic director, he helped to introduce new sports to the athletic program, including alpine skiing, cross-country skiing, lacrosse, and ultimate frisbee. He was very serious at work. He was firm with athletes when he needed to be, but he was also their biggest advocate. He believed in commitment and dedication. If you were on a team, you were expected to be at the practices and the events. Even your sister's wedding was not a good enough excuse to miss a cross-country or track meet. That really happened. Jack was at almost all home activity events. He rarely missed one. In fact, our family attended many events because, quite frankly, those were often the only times that we would see him during waking hours. Nobody could deny that he was a great supporter of the teams, and many people think that Jack was a coach of a sport in every season because he was at so many events. And of course, he was also at all of our daughters' events as well. And he was always the first one to step up for parent volunteer roles because he understood the importance of them. I always thought that Jack had expected someday that he would have a little cadet of his very own. But God graced us with two beautiful daughters, which really helped him develop a softer side, a side that many people did not get to see. But if you ever spoke to him about Becky and Laura, you could see that softer side as he would beam with pride. Just ask anyone who knew him. Working at St. Thomas Academy is the only job that Jack ever had after graduating from college in 1977. It is estimated that Jack has touched the lives of nearly 12,000 people. He served as teacher, coach, athletic director, colleague, and friend. But I really think his favorite role was being a coach. He loved getting to know the boys and developing relationships and long-lasting friendships with them. Whether you were on the third line of a freshman team or the star quarterback, goalie, or state champion, he respected and wanted all students to be involved in athletics or in other school-sponsored activities. As any good teacher and coach, Jack truly cared about his students. He cared about their well-being, their physical health, their successes, and their struggles. He was interested in their families and their life after graduation. There are many, many more reasons why Jack is so deserving of this award, but I think that one of the biggest reasons is that parents and students, student athletes, coaches, and colleagues had a great respect for him. I'd like to close by reading you a note that I found in one of Jack's drawers a few months after he passed away. It is written by a 2010 graduate named Max Flanagan. I don't know Max, but his words pinpointed the essence of Jack, and they touched my heart. And you might want to ask Bill Culbertson later about the story about some track meet that's mentioned in here. Coach Zahr, I wanted to send you a note of sincere appreciation. You are one of those people that I can truly say has always been there for me. As a freshman, you encouraged me to stick with track even though I was injured, to be a manager so I could stay close with the team. When I got injured at True Team State, you were the first one there to help. You wrote letters of support for me, and you cared more for my well-being than my track career. Lastly, let's not kid ourselves. You coached me, Brian, Fitz, and David to state in a new school record in the 4x800. I will never forget all the pool sessions and great conversations we had. I truly will value all the lessons you taught me as a mentor and as a friend. Regards, Max Flanagan. Thank you.
Our final inductee is, as a supporter of STA athletics, Ignatius Aloysius O'Shaughnessy, or IA for short. Family representatives are unable to attend today because of a conflict with the annual meeting of their family foundation. IA was a philanthropist of mythic proportions who was tremendously giving to Catholic institutions, and STA benefited greatly from his generosity. His business success as an oil refiner gave him the opportunity to give back and to pay it forward. His roots were at the College of St. Thomas, which was where STA was located, and thus the connection. Growth at the college led to cramped conditions and the need for STA to find a new home. IA made the large donation possible to kickstart fundraising. The idea ultimately became reality, and STA moved to this location in 1965. His name would go on the athletic facilities which housed the gymnasium, swimming pool, and locker room. O'Shaughnessy was the home court to the cadets basketball and wrestling teams until the construction of Vincent J. Flynn Hall in 2013. It remains the home pool to the cadet swimming and diving teams. IA O'Shaughnessy is inducted today as a supporter of STA athletics, but he is more than that. A more logical description is as a founding father, because it was his generosity that allowed for all of the athletic accomplishments to happen in the first place. He started the story here at the Mendota Heights campus, and there are thousands of students since who have benefited. Accepting today on behalf of the O'Shaughnessy family is Doug Hennis, Vice President for University and Government Relations for the University of St. Thomas and author of That Great Heart, a 2014 biography about IA O'Shaughnessy. Please give a warm St. Thomas Academy welcome to Doug Hennis.
Well, thank you, George, and good evening. I realize I'm the last person standing between the bar and dinner, so I will keep this short. It is indeed my pleasure to represent the O'Shaughnessy family this evening in sharing a few thoughts about its great patriarch, Ignatius Aloysius O'Shaughnessy, on this occasion. I never met Mr. O'Shaughnessy, but I had the privilege of writing his biography 2 years ago, and I came to know him very well. Whenever I autograph the book, I always write the same thing. Enjoy the story of a remarkable man whose impact is still felt in this community today. And that's the absolute truth. All you have to do is look around the St. Paul area alone and you see the O'Shaughnessy legacy here at the Academy, at the University of St. Thomas, and at St. Catherine University. Those three institutions would not be what they are today if not for Mr. O'Shaughnessy's generosity and, I must add, his vision. When the Academy was preparing to move to Mendota Heights in the mid-1960s, Father John Lee, then a teacher here, wrote a letter to Mr. O'Shaughnessy and commended him for exemplifying the good steward in the gospel. The Academy's 1972 yearbook, dedicated to Mr. O'Shaughnessy, said that his generosity, both in gift and time, is greater than steel beam or concrete. It has been a service to generations of Academy students. That certainly remains the case today, thanks to the ongoing support of the Academy by the O'Shaughnessy Foundation, which he funded. After Mr. O'Shaughnessy's death in 1973, James Shannon, who served as president of the College of St. Thomas and St. Thomas Academy, wrote a column for the Star Tribune. He called Mr. O'Shaughnessy one of God's great men and had this to say: "Unique is a strong word. It should be used with the greatest restraint. Having said that, I say that Ignatius Aloysius O'Shaughnessy was a unique human person. He was brilliant, tough, relaxed, determined, incisive, devout, witty, generous, and a thoroughly lovely man." At Mr. O'Shaughnessy's funeral at the Cathedral of St. Paul, Father Theodore Hesburgh, then president of Notre Dame, said that his close friend reflected the ideals of St. Thomas Aquinas, who once wrote that a good man is one who knows the right things to have faith in, the right things to hope for, and the right things to love. Mr. O'Shaughnessy was that good man, Father Hesburgh said, and because of his faith, hope, and love, our lives and our institutions have been enriched by his presence and his great spirit. He had a great lifelong love of sports, having starred in football for both St. Thomas and St. John's, and he often attended games played by the academy and the college. He'd be thrilled by this honor today. Thank you.
Congratulations to all of our 2016 inductees. And thank you, George Turner, for a great job tonight. Thank you, George. George and I were just discussing, we didn't really script how the end of this was going to happen, so you got a couple of options. I could either stand up here and keep talking, or we'll serve dinner, and the bar in the back will stay open. Frequent that often. The Alumni Association is staffing that. Pictures. There'll be some pictures. Yes, there'll be some pictures over in this area here, I guess. So Hall of Famers assemble up here for pictures per Mary Culbertson's instructions. So we'll have dinner. This room will stay open all night. I think we're gonna have the football game on the screen here. The bar will also be open. You can stay here, watch the game, enjoy, socialize. You can also go to the game. Kickoff is 7 p.m. There will be, it's homecoming. There will be a halftime presentation of the Hall of Fame, our Hall of Fame inductees at the halftime, so you don't want to miss that. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the staff of the St. Paul Hotel to serve dinner. Thank you for coming tonight. I look forward to seeing everybody back for Homecoming 2017.